Hey people of planet Earth. If I was to make a list of weapons that should have been in Fallout 4, the M1911 pistol would be right up at the top. It would have made a perfect sidearm for the Triggermen, and a more badass late-game replacement for the 10mm pistol. But considering how Bethesda made the Thompson look like a Fisher-Price toy, maybe it's for the best that they didn't take a crack at adding an M1911 to Fallout 4. Let the modders handle it, they can do it better. But which modder did the best job at adding this iconic weapon into Fallout 4? I've got 11 mods that add M1911s listed on screen right now. I'm sure I missed one or two, but I doubt that would influence my verdict. The winner is the Wars Standalone M1911 without a doubt. This mod works flawlessly out of the box, and it's a perfect fit for any load order. Whether you want to go lore-friendly or full tactical modern warfare, this weapon has you covered. It has great animations, plenty of attachments, perfect balance. What more could you want? That's my recommendation, and now let's take a look at all of these mods in detail. First, we've got my recommended mod, M1911 Wars Standalone Weapon. I should note that the full version of Wars released recently, and it also contains this weapon. Not much changed with the M1911 in between the two releases, and I'll only be focusing on the standalone version, but I will mention the differences as they come up. Anyways, the standalone M1911 has scripted leveled list injection. M1911s can be found on raiders, railroad agents, triggermen, and at vendors. The full release of Wars has done away with scripted injection in favor of direct leveled list edits, but you can still find the weapon on the same NPC types. Both versions have three uniques. One called Snake Eater can be found at BADTFL HQ in a safe. Another called Baby Machine Gun can be found on a Triggerman in Park Street Station, and a third called Future Shock can be found at the dam northwest of Walden Pond. The weapon looks wonderful. The only criticism I could make is maybe it's a little too small, but I don't know how big this pistol is in real life. For all I know, other mods have this weapon oversized, and this depiction is more correct. Regardless, this weapon has great custom animations in both first and third person. In power armor, the double footsteps glitch is present, but luckily there is a patch available to fix it. The full release of Wars also fixes the double footsteps glitch. In third-person power armor, the weapon looks fine using deliverer animations, although if you use the offhand knife attachment, the knife will float below the weapon awkwardly. It's not a big deal. As far as balancing goes, I think it's excellent. The M1911 slots in exactly where I want it to, as a mid to late game replacement for the 10mm pistol that does more damage but has heftier recoil as a trade-off. Appropriately, many of the weapon's attachments are designed to help manage the recoil. You can attach a vertical foregrip and a skeleton stock. There's also receivers, barrels, magazines, optics, muzzle devices, and skins. I like how the offhand knife and foregrip occupy the same slot, so you have to choose between a more useful bash or better recoil control. There was definitely a lot of thought put into this weapon. This is one that never leaves my load order. Second, we've got the Black Ops Cold War M1911 from the Call of Duty weapon mod deposit. I've never had good luck with Call of Duty ports before, and this is an unfinished and abandoned mod, so right from the outset I knew there was zero chance this mod would be any good. But I had to look at it anyways. It comes packaged as loose files, which isn't a great first impression, and it has a hard requirement of tactical reload. There's no patch to get around it, but you could probably remove the tactical reload master from the file header with enough effort. This weapon has no unique variants, pre-placed spawns, or leveled list integration. The only way to acquire it is by crafting it at a chem lab. The weapon looks quite good and has excellent animations ported straight from Black Ops Cold War, even for third person. But the sound feels too weak for a .45 caliber weapon. Bizarrely, the melee bash animation has been removed and replaced with a completely useless inspect animation. You can still throw grenades, but bashing is no longer possible in first person due to this incredibly stupid decision. In first person power armor, we've got the double footsteps bug, and in third person power armor, the slide is misplaced, but the weapon is at least functional using deliverer animations. Looking at the modification options at the workbench makes it very obvious this weapon was never finished. Most of the categories have no alternative selections available, so all this weapon has are a few optics, some muzzle devices, slide lengths, and damage cheats. One good thing I can say about this mod is its balancing isn't too bad. This M1911 does a bit more damage than the basic Deliverer, while being slightly less accurate and having a smaller mag capacity. Since there are no receiver upgrades, its damage gets outclassed by other weapons very quickly unless you use the damage cheats, but even with 90% extra damage, this M1911 is by no means overpowered. So let's recap. This weapon has no leveled list integration, no uniques, almost no modifications, bad sounds, no melee attack, it's broken in power armor, it requires tactical reload no matter how you feel about it. Yeah, it sucks. Let's move on. Third up, we've got the World War II Colt M1911A1. This mod comes as loose files. I'd recommend packing them into an archive because the weapon uses 4K textures. There's no leveled list integration or unique variants. You can only craft the M1911A1 at a chem lab or find it at Concord Museum. The model looks appropriately aged after 300 years of abuse, and I love the sounds. The custom first-person animations are also incredible. When aiming down sights, the recoil feels a little weak, but otherwise I really like these animations. In third person, the weapon uses Deliverer animations, and the same is true for third-person power armor. What's most disappointing about this weapon is a lack of attachments. Receiver upgrades, a comfort grip, and a suppressor is literally all there is. This does at least mean that balancing isn't too far out of whack. The gun fully upgraded demolishes the 10mm pistol in damage, weight, action point cost, recoil, basically every regard. But because there's no way to upgrade its pathetic 7-round ammo capacity or add any optics, it still has downsides that will make you consider other pistols. The worst part about this mod is a very annoying bug. When using this weapon, it's nearly impossible to finish off enemies with a melee bash. The kill cam will almost always cancel, and the enemy will stay alive. I've seen this issue crop up with tactical reload before. In fact, it's the biggest reason why I don't use tactical reload anymore. But this M1911A1 has the bug even without tactical reload installed. As far as I know, there's no way to fix this problem, and it makes the gun unusable to me. Regardless though, this mod still wouldn't be a great option even if this bug didn't exist, so let's move on. Fourth, we've got N7's badass 1911s Reloaded. This mod calls itself the most badass pistol pack on the Nexus. Let's see if that's true. First off, when downloading this mod, make sure to grab a texture pack unless you want all your guns to be pink. There's 1K and 2K packs available. I'm showing off the 2K textures in this video. This mod adds 22 different weapons, not all of them M1911s. A bunch of them are legendary, unique weapons based off of anime or other video games. These can only be purchased from the new store in Concord called the Slayer's Shop. Additionally, some weapons have been integrated into leveled lists via scripted injection. These new pistols can be found on many different NPC types and are very common. This mod unfortunately adds its own 9mm and 357 Magnum ammo types, and they've been injected into leveled lists too. There's a patch for Caliber Complex, but no patch for munitions or any other caliber mod, sadly. Oh, and the new ammo types have missing textures for their world items, which is just awful. Anyways, these weapons have sounds that are okay, but a few decibels louder than anything from the vanilla game. Also, all of these weapons use Deliverer animations, which look bad, but it guarantees there won't be any power armor problems. Balancing is all over the place. Some of the weapons start very underpowered, others start ridiculously overpowered. All weapons can be modified with performance enhancement kits that improve their damage greatly, which makes even the crappiest weapons deadly. Most weapons have very little AP cost in VATS, and some of them are so pinpoint accurate that the crosshair folds in on itself, guaranteeing every bullet lands in the exact same place. As far as modifications, again, it depends on the weapon. The 9mm pistols don't have many modifications, but the 45s have a half-decent selection because they can attach parts from unique weapons. Oddly enough, this mod's weapons can be made non-functional by selecting no magazine or no barrel. It's very strange. The only thing this mod has going for it is some cool models. With an hour or two of work, you could cut this mod down to just the weapons you want and fix their balancing issues, but out of the box, you've got missing textures, not enough attachments, terrible balancing, incompatible ammo types, vanilla animations, and poor sounds. This mod is not badass, it's just bad. And ass. Fifth, we've got the M1911 from Combined Arms. The biggest downside of this M1911 is you have to download the entire Combined Arms pack to use it because, as far as I'm aware, this particular weapon was never released as a standalone. The combined arms M1911 has no unique variants, but it is injected into leveled lists via script. It's found on vendors, triggermen, and regular wastelanders occasionally, but it isn't very common. You can also craft it at a chem lab. The weapon's got a great model and sounds, and custom first-person animations that look pretty good. In third person, we've got 10mm animations both in and out of power armor. Unlike many of the other weapons in combined arms, there's no power armor double footsteps glitch. This M1911 has plenty of attachments, second only to the War's M1911. There's receivers, tons of optics, barrels, stickers, ammo types, magazines, and muzzle devices. It's a great selection. Balancing honestly isn't as good as I thought it would be. This M1911 can fire as fast as you can pull the trigger, it has some really overpowered ammo types, and its full auto attachments don't reduce the damage compared to semi-auto. This M1911 also has barely any more recoil than a 10mm pistol, and less weight to boot. In fact, with the right mods, you can make this weapon weigh less than 1 unit. It's definitely overpowered compared to vanilla weapons. The War's M1911 is much better than this, but this mod does come close. And if you want to add a dozen plus weapons into your game with one easy download, you could do a hell of a lot worse than combined arms, that's for sure. Sixth up is the 45 auto pistol. To save some time, I'm only going to review the version fixed by an unofficial update, which purportedly fixes the double footsteps bug and a few modeling errors. This mod attempts to faithfully recreate the 45 auto pistol from Fallout New Vegas. It also recreates the unique weapon, A Light Shining in Darkness, which can be found at the Railroad HQ. The regular 45 auto pistol is injected into leveled lists and can be found on raiders, gunners, and at vendors, starting from level 5. The weapon is well modeled, and it has custom animations in first person. In third person, 10mm animations are used both in and out of power armor. Even though the unofficial update promised to fix the power armor footsteps glitch, it didn't work in my experience. The double footsteps still seem to be there. There's a decent number of attachments on this pistol. We've got receivers, grips, sights, magazines, muzzle devices, and one extra paint job. It's good enough, but the War's standalone M1911 had more attachments, and it was more balanced. That's not to say this weapon is super unbalanced. Its damage is on the high side, but it's held in check by a very slow rate of fire. Maybe if there was more recoil and weight, or if it only spawned at higher levels, this weapon would be balanced. But as it is right now, it makes other pistols somewhat obsolete. The A Light Shining in Darkness unique does extra damage, but you'll want to put a reflex sight on it because its iron sights are horrible. In conclusion, this mod is a good effort, but I heavily prefer the War's M1911 over it. Seventh, we've got the BH Colt M1911 Army Pistol. This weapon requires the H&K USP mod to be loaded for its animations. When you download it, you can choose between 2K and 4K textures. I'm showing off the 2K version. There's also an update file that makes the gold and chrome materials look better, and an optional leveled list injection patch as well. If you download the leveled list patch, you can find the weapon on gunners, vendors, and bosses in general, starting from level 20. You can also craft the weapon at a chem lab. Interestingly, this mod adds a trench shovel melee weapon, which hasn't been placed anywhere and can't be crafted, so you'll have to cheat it in. It only has one attachment, a blade, and uses the same animations as the crowbar from the H&K USP mod. There's also a unique pistol called York, which does more damage than the regular M1911 and has a different skin. It also hasn't been added to the game world anywhere, so you'll have to spawn it in too. I really like the sounds on this pistol, and it's got a great model, with excellent animations taken straight from the H&K USP mod. Unfortunately, this weapon has that damn double footsteps glitch in first-person power armor. In third person, it's using perfectly acceptable deliverer animations. This gun is well balanced, exactly like I'd expect a .45 caliber handgun to be balanced. It has a slow fire rate and low magazine capacity, limiting the usefulness of its high damage. It also has a high AP cost, making it a poor performer in VATS. The biggest problem with this pistol is it fires 10mm rounds instead of 45 by default, which is weird. The weapon has pretty good attachments. I wish there were alternative barrels and some muzzle brakes, but what's here isn't bad. We've got receiver upgrades, a quick reload magazine, dozens of optics, a bunch of suppressors, flashlights, 5 materials, and a caliber conversion to the proper .45 ammunition. I think this is a great weapon. If you don't care about power armor and you like these animations, it might be your preferred choice, and I wouldn't blame you. This is a nice mod. 8th, we have the M1911A1 Standalone Handgun. This is a very old mod from 2016. There's some essential mesh and texture fixes you'll need to download for this weapon, and for the sake of time, I'm only going to review it with these fixes installed. Both the weapon and its fixes come as loose files. You'll probably want to pack them into an archive. This mod adds one weapon, the M1911A1, and it has no unique variants and only one pre-placed spawn at the Corvega factory. It's injected into the leveled lists of gunners and vendors, starting around level 10. The model is good, I like the custom firing sound, but it's using deliverer animations, which of course suck. The balancing is pretty good though. This weapon has a low magazine capacity, a lot of weight, and a slow rate of fire, which compensates for its high damage, just like you'd expect. There's a decent number of attachments, but it's not enough. I would have liked to see some alternative skins, compensators, extended slides, but all we get is receivers, one grip, extended magazines, glow sights, a suppressor, reflex sights, and a laser pointer. This was a really good mod back in 2016, but there's better options now, with more attachments and custom animations, making this old weapon obsolete. 9th, we've got a mod called M1911 Commander. This mod uses multiple 4K textures and correspondingly has a very large file size. This makes the decision to distribute it as loose files indefensible. Equally indefensible is the missing textures and modeling issues, which are fixed using hotfix files that can't be installed with a mod manager because the folder structure was set up incorrectly. You have to manually drag the replacement files into multiple different folders, and I guarantee the average user will screw this up and get it wrong. I would never recommend this mod in a million years because of these issues alone, but let's press on. The weapon has 3 unique variants, one called Race Gun at Quincy Police Department, another called Rattler at the Combat Zone, up in the stands, and a third in a safe at this church in the Glowing Sea called White Stag. For the base version of the M1911 Commander, there's leveled list injection, but it's only found on vendors and bosses. The model and textures are pretty decent, but that's the only positive thing I can say about this weapon. The firing sounds are loud as hell and don't actually line up with the weapon firing. The weapon also uses vanilla deliverer animations, and those suck, of course. There are a handful of attachments. We've got receivers, grips, a few different skins, some muzzle devices, and extended magazines. Interestingly, if you put on a suppressor and then take off the threaded barrel, the weapon will still sound suppressed, which is a huge improvement on the regular broken firing sound, but this is another bug to add to the list. Balancing isn't too bad for this piece of trash, although I would have liked to see some more recoil on this weapon, but I guess the heavy weight does compensate for its high damage. Honestly, who cares about balance with a piece of shit like this? Don't use it, let's move on. The same author made another M1911 mod called Custom 1911. Let's take a look at it. It's also distributed as loose files. This mod adds 5 different versions of the M1911, and 4 have been injected into leveled lists. These 4 can be found randomly on vendors, raiders, and gunners, or found in a few pre-placed locations. The 5th pistol, Fallen Angel, can be found at Lynn Woods in this tower. Unlike the last mod, these pistols all have working sounds, and the models are about the same quality as the M1911 Commander. Of course, all of these weapons are still using deliverer animations. In terms of attachments, this mod is worse than M1911 Commander. All we really get are some muzzle attachments and one tiny little red dot sight, along with some non-visual changes. The damage on these M1911s is pretty high, especially for the early game. These weapons don't have any receiver upgrades, so you get good damage right out of the gate. I guess there's some recoil to balance it out, but honestly, with so many superior options, there's no reason to use this mod anyways, so why spend time worrying about balance? Let's just continue on to our final mod, 1911 Trinity, which is a compilation of 3 different M1911 pistols from several different mod authors. This mod comes as loose files, and it adds 3 new weapons, the M1911 Corvus, Moses, and Templar, each being more overpowered than the last. There's no leveled list integration. This trinity of pistols can only be crafted at a chem lab. First off, I have to say, these weapons are ugly as shit. The models aren't too bad, but the materials are so shiny, you'll think your graphics card is dying. And of course, they all use deliverer animations. The balancing is awful. These weapons do ridiculous damage to start with, and it only gets worse the more attachments you apply. To be fair to this mod, there are at least a lot of attachments available. Receivers, extended barrels, stocks, magazines, a scope, glow sights, and overpowered incendiary and explosive ammo types are all on offer. But still, I don't know why anyone would want to use these ugly weapons. Maybe if you're role-playing some religious crusader character, it would be cool, but for that, I would rather use a light shining in darkness from the 45 auto pistol mod. No matter how you look at it, this mod is a terrible choice. Alright, that's it for this video. I hope you're more informed now than when you started watching it. Thank you to the people who suggested this topic, and until next time, toodles! Starfield's coming out in less than 2 weeks. Get hyped. No one's gonna care about Fallout 4 anymore.